and women that make men better at leading?
Because it's just natural for a man to lead and
Right. Well,
a
the
woman to
question is why.
support.
The question is why. What are the biological differences between men and women that make men naturally predisposed to being better at leadership?
Because they're stronger and they talk better and they're just, I can't explain it, but it's just what it
I think
is.
it's funny that you, a man, say men talk better than women, then say that you can't explain it. But going off of your first point that men are stronger than women, I don't think that physical strength has anything to do with leadership ability. And I'll demonstrate this to you. I have a question. Who's the leader, the football coach or the football players?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Who's the leader, the football coach or the players?
Well, the football coach,
And who's physically stronger?
the football players,
And who's the leader, the president or the Secret Service?
the Secret Service,
No, the president is the leader. And who's stronger? The Secret Service. In fact, can you name one structure of leadership that exists anywhere in the world that is purely determined off of physical strength?
can you repeat that one more time?
Can you name one structure of leadership anywhere in the world that is purely determined off of physical strength?
Can you rephrase that?
Okay, there's structures of leadership in organizations, in companies, in nations, in military, in sports, in cooperatives, in any time that humans come together to do something, there's usually some type of structure of leadership involved. Okay,
Yes. Hmm.
so name one structure of leadership anywhere in the world that is purely determined on the basis of physical strength.
Okay, you got me there.
All right. So physical strength does not make you a better leader. Okay. So when you told me that, well, men are better at leading than women because they're physically stronger on average, that point is now null. So, well, back to my main question, what are the differences between men and women that make men better at leading?
I can't answer that.
Okay. And you can't answer that because they don't exist. Okay. And why don't these differences between men and women exist that make men better at leading? Because men aren't better at leading than women. I actually very heavily, vehemently disagree with making such a broad, far reaching claim about the generalized leadership ability of individuals predicated on their gender identity, because I don't think that one's gender identity tells us anything about how good they are at leading. That's like saying that people that tend to wear red shoes are better at leading than people that tend to wear orange shoes. It's just a completely irrelevant trait to leadership ability. Connor says, keep up the good work, Dean. Mr. Connor, that is incredibly kind of you. And thank you so much for the $20, man. Seriously, that is incredibly, incredibly kind of you. Thank you, Connor. And then also, let's go ahead and just check over on the PayPal, see if there's anybody new. Everyone, just give us one moment. We want to make sure that we show love to each and every single one of our donors. There's nothing new over on PayPal. And yeah, anyways, what's going on? TikTok is so annoying. TikTok raid? Yeah, well, I mean, so we just got banned for like guest violations. So what I'm thinking is that was probably a mix of the guy that basically said he was a Nazi, and then that guy saying that men were better at leading than women. Unfortunate that we got banned. It's always when the guests are getting slammed by me. Yeah, I've actually recognized that trend too. Like typically the bans happen when I'm just absolutely cooking somebody. You know what I mean? Somebody openly admitted to being that. Yeah, we had a guest in the stream that's like racism is great. I don't know, just seeking attention because he's never been able to get it from anybody else in his life. That's like my honest take on people like that. Like it's just it's crazy. It's very crazy, man. Hey, Lisa, thank you so much for the $10 over on Venmo. Thank you so much, Lisa. Lisa says, been watching on YouTube recently. Your voice is pretty quiet compared to the guest. Wasn't sure if you knew. Keep up the great work. Well, first and foremost, thank you for the $10. And then secondly, yeah, I do know that. It's because I guess I'll kind of explain to you guys how the audio goes from my phone into the YouTube stream that you are all watching. By the way, the appeal got approved on TikTok, so we're going to be back up and running here shortly. But I do just want to explain this to you so at least you guys can understand why my mic is a lot quieter than my guests and why there's like actually nothing I could do about it. So what you see here is a port from my phone it goes lightning to this adapter that includes a phone charger and this USB that goes into my amp over here that you could barely see on the side of the screen. I can't pull it any further than that. And then the amp has an XLR cable on the back. I can't even pull it far enough to show you guys. And then that goes into the microphone that you listen out of. But now you may say, well, how does the sound from the microphone go to the phone and to the computer? And how does the sound from the guests on TikTok go to my headphones and the computer and TikTok? Well, the way that I have it set up is there's active voice monitoring on the preamp, meaning that whenever I talk into the mic, I hear it right back on my headset because my headset is well plugged into the preamp. Okay. But I also hear my phone over this because the phone's sound goes into the preamp and right into the channel, the same as the active voice monitoring. So what I have is a splitter on the preamp right here where it goes from one headphone input that is supposed to be the monitoring of my mic and of my phone. And I have a splitter, meaning that one of the cables just goes to my headset so I could hear everything. And then the other cable goes from the preamp connected to the mic, connected to the phone, into the computer, right? So like a very long-winded explanation there. But essentially, the reason that I cannot make my voice any louder is because that would also make the guest voice louder. They're basically the same audio channel, but if I make the guest voice any louder, it's just going to start to break and it's not going to sound good and they'll just be even more overpowering. So that's why I can't really do anything about that. I think the only thing I can do is just kind of like speak louder. Also, a lot of people are saying that the crowd is confused. Yeah, man, even I'm confused about the whole setup. I mean, it was kind of like an idea in my head, and then it took me like a month to execute on the idea and figure it out. But even like, I'm surprised that it works. If that makes any sense. I'm surprised that this setup works. I'll just blindly accept Dean's reasons. Dude, let's go. Let's go. Scuff said it. Honestly, this is like, I'd say like the best kind of like rig setup that I could use. I think maybe I could make my mic a little louder by adding in like a cloud amp and the XLR cable between that and the mic. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. Anyways, we're back on TikTok. The ban got appealed, which is awesome. Anyways, Michaela, thank you for the $7 saying, hey, Dean, I love you so much. Thank you, Michaela. I love you too. I was wondering if you'd ever consider debating Canadian politics. You're scared that Pierre will win. So I think right now his odds of winning are like 20%. So if I were you, I actually want to be that scared. Hey, for the first 500 people that are tuning back into the TikTok live stream, welcome back in, you guys. So we got banned, but our ban got appealed, which is phenomenal. I mean, I think that rarely ever happens. So when we do get banned and the ban gets appealed and we get our account access back, that's always a good day, right? So we're honestly just going to go ahead and hop right back into the debates. If you are tuning in, one of the first 700 people, make sure that you're spamming that comment section. Make sure that you're spamming the likes and spamming the shares and spamming every type of engagement with the live that you can so we can hopefully shoot out and across that FYP easier. But real quick before we do get our first guest up in here, Spear, thank you for the $20 YouTube super chat. Would I ever consider opening my debates to people that support the admin rather than just Trump? A lot of people claim to overlook his antics, but support the propaganda like RFK and eliminating the Department of Education or DEI. Actually, like the debates are already open to those people. Like, I guess the question more specifically is why do you support the current administration compared to why do you support Trump? But yeah, we're going to get our first guest of the stream up in here, everybody. If you are just tuning back in, we are getting off of a ban. But hopefully the Trump supporters just find her live right away. What is going on, Melanie? Do you support Trump?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, and how old are you?
I'm 19.
Really? What year are you born in? Okay, well, obviously she wasn't 19. By the way, chat, I actually met some young women for Trump yesterday. I was driving.
Oh my God. Hello, Dean Withers.
Troll. I was driving yesterday on the freeway, and this car was like following me and like speeding up and getting next to me. I look over once we finally hit a stoplight, and it's these two young women, and they scream at me and they say that they heavily disagree with my views and that they think babies are people too, right? Referring to my pro-choice position, and they're like recording too. So I looked at them. I gave them a little finger wave. I said, no, they're not, quite frankly. And then I drove away. And then they like sped away. And while they're speeding away, they're like screaming. And they're like, yeah, fuck your car. And like all their shit. They were recording. I wonder if the recording will ever hit TikTok. That'd be really funny, really fucking funny. What is going on, Barbara? Do you support Trump?
I voted for no. I voted for Kamala.
Barbara, we all love you here. WU. I hope that you enjoy the stream. You are awesome. Huge shout out to Barbara. We're going to get on to the next guest. If you're watching right now and you do support Trump, guys, go and drop a MAGA down below in that comment section. All right, you guys, what is going on next? Nev, do you support Trump?
Yep, sure do.
Okay, all right. Why do you support the worst presidential administration of your life?
Stuff like gun control and not supporting Planned Parenthood.
Well, okay, not supporting Planned Parenthood. So you're anti-abortion. Is that your position?
I'm anti-Planned Parenthood given its history.
And why is that?
Because the founder was Margaret Sanger, and she was a literal eugenicist.
That is
and,
true.
And had she started Project Inward, and it was to control the births of Black and brown people.
Mm-hmm. So I think that we need to first come to terms with history. What you're saying is true, okay? And what you're saying needs to not be forgotten, needs to be recognized, and needs to be discussed. However, I don't think just because something as racist or wait. Also, I'm hearing a lot of people saying that it isn't true about Project Inward. I'm not familiar with that, but I do know that she was a eugenicist. And what I will say is just because something has racist origins doesn't mean that it's racist today. And I think that we see plenty of things in in American society that has racist origins that is no longer racist today. Another really good example would be tipping. So the origin of tipping in America actually comes from business owners wanting to pay their employees less and then have them reliant on tips, knowing that their business patrons would only tip their white employees and not their black employees. And this was a legal way for the racist South to try to achieve really low wages for black people following the Civil War. And the reason I bring this up is because I don't feel racist when I go to a restaurant and tip my waitress today, even though tipping in America has racist origins, just like we shouldn't feel like Planned Parenthood offering abortions to American women and girls is racist today, even though the founder that died before abortion was legal in any American state was a eugenicist.
So I'm reading from it's the N-Word Project. It's Wikipedia. The N-Word Project, conceptualized by birth control activist Margaret Sanger and implemented by Birth Control Federation of America, now Planned Parenthood, was an initiative to spread awareness of contraceptive to lower rates in the South. So, and even today, given Planned Parenthood, do you know the percentage of abortions that are performed by race, Black and brown specifically? 70%.
Yeah, I do know that. I do know that, specifically speaking, black women are significantly more likely to get an abortion compared to white women. The reason being 55% of women that get abortions would cite that the reason they did so was because of financial related issues. And the average socioeconomic standing of black people in America is lower than that of the average white American because of slavery, its aftermath, and systemic racism. And this is actually yet another reason why I'd say, no, offering abortions to women in America today is not racist. In fact, banning them is racist. And the reason I say banning them is racist is because it disproportionately negatively impacts black women and black girls.
So how is that not genocide of some sort?
Okay. So now we've kind of got away from the whole it's racist to it's genocide. So let's talk about that. So I think that genocide is necessarily wrongful. Genocide is wrong under all conditions. And I don't think that the killing of fetuses is wrong.
I mean, you're kind of that's kind of like your opinion, but
I mean, no, we share the same opinion. I don't just killing a lot of humans isn't necessarily genocide. It's wrongfully killing a lot of humans. And I could give you an example of this. For instance, we kill hundreds of thousands of brain dead patients every single year by disconnecting them from life support. Those are humans that were alive that are now dead. Do you think that that is an example of genocide?
I was kind of busy reading the comments. It went your comment section went from the Project N-Word is a lie to now we're talking about it like it.
So
actually
are you debating
happened.
your comment section or me?
You, but I
Great,
wasn't.
so then I'd appreciate it if you'd respond to what I said.
Repeat it one more time, the gist of it, and I will.
Yeah, do you think that there's a genocide occurring in every single developed country on planet Earth today, since we kill hundreds of thousands of brain dead patients per year by disconnecting them from their life support, which takes a human that's alive to be in a human that's dead with intention?
And I think that's slightly different because it's usually the family that makes the decision,
Well, it's
or it's
always the family that makes the decision for the fetus.
their will or their trust or whatever. Like it's their wishes that they cognizantly made that, hey, if I'm ever in this position, I want you guys to pull the plug.
Okay, so what about like brain dead patients that specifically do not have a DNR?
This debate, I've heard I listen to you often. This debate, it always goes the same way, and I just hear the same talking points over and over. It's not something I'm
Actually,
really.
this is a brand new talking point that I haven't used for over a year, because the last time somebody told me that abortion is genocide was over a year ago. Okay, so I'd appreciate it if you just go ahead and respond. But I will say, if you've heard me say this a lot, hopefully you've had enough time to think of a cogent rebuttal. And I always think it's funny when people will come up into my live stream and tell me that you've heard me make the same argument a lot and it's essentially a talking point, but then you don't have a cogent rebuttal. All that means is I'm more likely to be right and you're more likely to be wrong because you're not being put on the spot to think of a response. You've had months and months and months of listening to my streams to think of a response, and you still don't have one.
It's the same. You always make the false equivalency of a fetus that is I'm pro-choice, by the way. I live in Arizona, and I voted to uphold constitutionally abortion in Arizona.
Wait, so under your own view, you're okay with genocide?
No,
You're the one that called the deaths of fetuses through abortion genocide.
If you were to let me finish,
For sure.
I think abortion is a necessary evil.
Wait, you're also the one that said that it was racist. So you're okay with racist genocide?
You don't think it's that way,
So
why?
I want to clarify. You think that racist genocide, under your own view, of course, not my view, your view, is okay?
I'm just calling a spade a spade.
Okay, that is wild. Listen, so I think that this is like a really good example of intention versus impact, bro. Like, I am happy that the impact of your belief is free and equal access to abortion for every single woman and girl in our country. But, oh my God, you should really change the intention there, dude, because that is fucked. Like saying that you think abortion is racist and genocide and you just call racist genocide a necessary evil that needs to exist. That is like quite possibly like one of the craziest beliefs I've heard ever.
Okay. I have my beliefs and my own morality on one hand, and then on the other, I can see how the real world actually works and what's going on. I have my ideals are just that, right? They're ideals. And then you have your more pragmatic side that, okay, like given the situation, given every person in this country and how they typically feel and believe, this is the way that it would probably work best.
Okay. Well, I've disputed that it's racist and I've disputed that it's genocide. What's next? Wait, also, you told me that you support the admin because of their position on abortion. Well, the administrative position on abortion is that it should be up to the states and be willing to go away. If you were pro-choice, you wouldn't think that.
I can support the administration, and I could vote one way rather than the other and not necessarily agree with every little single thing that he does.
But this is specifically what you told me you agree with.
Yeah, it should be left to the states.
I think that yields very negative outcomes, especially for pro-choicers, and I can explain to you why. So we could agree that there's like no good reason to restrict a woman's access to abortion prior to 20 weeks, right?
Sure.
Okay. So all that this means is that legislation that bans and restricts a woman's access to abortion prior to 20 weeks is impeding upon their bodily autonomy without good reason. But I think an impedance upon one's bodily autonomy and the lack of good reason is literally a human rights violation.
Well,
Do you
what
agree?
about, would you apply that same logic to COVID vaccines?
No, I wouldn't, because I'd say that good reason would exist. Same thing for like preventing somebody from murdering one else. But I
don't
want you
think
to
that's
agree
the-
here real quick.
I don't think that's the reason.
Can you agree? Well, that's so now you're shifting the debate to about the good reason that we would have to enforce COVID vaccines. But I just want you to try to agree to my position here on abortion before you absolutely shift the goalposts. First and foremost, can we agree that restricting somebody's bodily autonomy without good reason is a human rights violation?
Sure.
Okay, so then you think that abortion bans are committing human rights violations, right?
No, because they can, well, except in Texas, which admittedly goes way too far with their, turn someone in and their bounties. I think that's way too far. But someone could go across state lines and do such. They can order mifepristone. That's been upheld through the Supreme Court so far. They can
Okay.
order mifepristone through the
Okay,
mail
we have a big issue.
that way.
We have a big issue. Okay, I'm going to speak slowly and I'm going to speak clearly. You agreed that there's no good reason to restrict a woman's access to abortion the first 20 weeks of her pregnancy.
They're not restricted.
Okay? You then agreed, right, that laws such as the pro-life legislation we see in like what is it 35 of our states restrict a woman's access to abortion prior to 20 weeks. What that means is that those laws impede upon a woman's bodily autonomy without good reason. Okay, can we agree there?
No, because they can go and get an
No.
abortion another way.
Okay, so I just want to clarify,
Texas.
when slavery was legal in the South but illegal in the North, slavery was not a human rights violation because if they didn't want to have their bodily autonomy restricted, they could have moved to the Union.
Well, the North sure seemed to think so, and the North wound up winning. So
So I want to clarify what you think. Do you think slavery was a human rights violation even though they could just move to the Union?
sure, yeah.
Great. So just because you can quote unquote move to an area where you won't have this restriction upon your human rights doesn't mean it's not a human rights violation. So because pro-life legislation restricts a woman's access to abortion, and you think there's no good reason to restrict a woman's access to abortion as yourself described as being pro-choice, you think that that's unjustly infringing upon a woman's bodily autonomy without good reason, and you agreed that unjustly infringing upon somebody's bodily autonomy without good reason is a human rights violation. So what this means is that you think, at least necessarily and logically speaking, this is concluded from the principles you've shared, that restricting a woman's access prior to 20 weeks is a human rights violation. So I have a question. Should human rights be left up to the states or protected on the federal level?
On the federal level, except
Right. So then you think that access to abortion should be protected on a federal level?
I mean, overall, sure, but if you can, I maintain that they accept in Texas where there's bounties, which I conceded, Texas goes way too far. They can order mifepristone through the mail, and they can go across state lines. They are not completely restricted. They said no abortions will be performed in XYZ state.
Hey, watch this. What conclusion is the useless information that you're sharing with us right now do for your position? Like I just want to clarify. The last three sentences that you just shared are absolutely useless for any position that you're trying to debate with me. The reason why it's absolutely useless in the context of this debate is because you just conceded that abortion needs to be protected on the federal level, meaning that insofar as the principles that you hold to be the case towards abortion, that Kamala Harris was a better candidate as she wanted to protect it on the federal level for all American women and girls. Meanwhile, that Donald Trump wanted to give it to the states to legislate on, and you think that's a human rights violation, meaning that Kamala Harris was a better candidate than Donald Trump in the context of abortion.
You know, when Roe versus Wade was
Wait,
first,
stop, don't pivot. I want you to affirm or deny that conclusion based upon the principles that you've already suggested to us.
I deny it.
Okay, so now we have a logical contradiction. And what I'm now going to go ahead and do is I'm going to reiterate my argument premise by premise, and I want you to tell me where I went wrong, okay?
Okay.
Premise number one, violating somebody's bodily autonomy without good reason is a human rights violation.
Sure.
Premise number two, there's no good reason to ban a woman's access to abortion prior to 20 weeks.
Sure.
Premise number three, abortion bans impede upon a woman's bodily autonomy without good reason prior to 20 weeks.
Sure.
Okay, the conclusion of this would be that an abortion ban is a human rights violation, correct?
A national abortion ban, which there isn't one.
Nowhere in like the premises that you accepted that have anything to do with at the state or national level, the conclusion that it yielded is that an abortion ban at any level is a human rights violation.
I think there's a lot more nuance than you're letting on.
Sir, so at this point, you are categorically acting outside of accordance with logic. So all that I did is I gave you a syllogism. A syllogism is a premise by premise argument that yields a conclusion. Okay, you accepted all of the premises in the conclusion in the argument, which means that the conclusion is necessarily true unless you could demonstrate that the argument is invalid. But as far as I'm concerned, because you accepted every single premise in the argument, you must also accept the conclusion that abortion bans are human rights violations.
No, I don't.
Okay, so then you're then you're just acting outside of logic, and you've obviously never taken a single class on philosophy, logic inside of philosophy, or
Philosophy's
formal
not even
argumentation.
real, bro. Philosophy's not real. It is a way. That's why it's not a hard
Yeah,
science.
so
It's a
I just want to
soft
clarify. You were saying right now that logic isn't real.
No, you said philosophy, and I said philosophy.
I said logic inside of philosophy insofar as how that would be applied to argumentation, insofar as like formal argumentation and premise and like in syllogism we use syllogisms to yield conclusions, and as long as it is valid in the sense that the premises logically entail the conclusion, if all of the premises are true, the conclusion must also be true. Can you please accept that?
Says who?
Actually, thank you. So says like the 3 classical laws of logic.
Okay,
Says
cool.
Logic.
Cool, but there's a lot more to life, and I'm sure there's competing philosophies on your sigillism and stuff like that.
No, there's not.
I bet you there is.
No, there's not.
Not all philosophers agree. And
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do about basic syllogisms. Yes, we do. I mean, there's competing schools of thought insofar as what laws of logic should be accepted, such as the classical laws of logic or Aristotelian logic. But it is the case that both Aristotelian logic and classical logic both do accept like the application of syllogisms.
Okay, but I disagree. So clearly,
Okay. All right. So when you say that you disagree, you're just literally saying that you disagree with logic, which is going to be the necessary conclusion from your view. It's that in order for this guy to hold the position that he supports Trump, he has to say that logic that he's operating outside of logic. So I have a question. If you're operating outside of logic, does it mean that you're illogical?
no.
That was yet another conclusion that operated outside of logic. Okay, if you're outside of logic, that means you're void of logic. What do we call it when you're void of logic? When something's void of logic, we call it illogical. Okay, all illogical means, okay, the proposition that word represents is outside of logic.
I'm reading about your little syllogism right now, and even when this was coming about, there were competing schools on which one was right and wrong. Within of itself, proves that there are competing thoughts on this kind of stuff that you're talking about. Even when they were
So
conceived
competing schools of thought competing schools of thought on what specifically?
on syllogism,
What's a syllogism?
what you're talking about,
Which is, I want you to define it.
point by point, and then you got to reach a conclusion. So in antiquity, 2 rival syllogistic theories existed: Aristotelian syllogism and Stoic syllogism. So
What's a Stoic syllogism?
I don't care. My
You have
point
no
is,
fucking clue you're talking. You are like, dude. Listen,
I'm reading.
I've done one thing in my life, okay, that I'm really proud about, and that's when I went to college and paid more money than I should have to learn about philosophy and
Philosophy's not
logic
real.
inside of philosophy.
Not
And
real.
if you're gonna sit up here and reject syllogisms, I obviously know that like the average person, especially the average individual that's like politically involved, doesn't really like put too much focus on logic inside of philosophy and formal argumentation. But B, like I'm laughing at you so hard in my own head because you are literally just rejecting logic. That's all that you're doing. That's all that you're doing. And like I could detail this to you so easily. So
One
I got you
school
to
of
accept
logic.
4 premises. What school of logic am I referencing?
syllogism.
Syllogism isn't a fucking school of logic. Syllogisms represent formal argumentation in which schools of logic can be applied to, right? And I'm not even referencing like a quote unquote school of logic, unless you want to say that like classical logic is a school of logic. No, I'm just referencing the 3 classical laws of logic. You just don't even know what you're fucking talking about, so don't try to talk about it, okay? Listen, the point is that I laid out to you 4 premises, okay? A, that there's no good reason to restrict a woman's access to abortion prior to 20 weeks. B, it is a human rights violation to impede upon somebody's bodily autonomy without good reason, which would mean C, that restricting a woman's access to abortion before 20 weeks is a human rights violation, and D, that an abortion ban restricts a woman's access to abortion, which yields the conclusion that abortion bans are human rights violations.
I maintain that you can order mifepristone through the mail, and you can go to another state to get an abortion. There is no federal abortion ban.
But see, everything that you're saying right now doesn't change a damn thing, because any abortion ban would yield human rights violations for the reasons that I just described.
I disagree because it's not federal.
So which one of my reasons was wrong?
Because you can still get an abortion, just not in certain states. But you can order mifepristone, and you can go to another.
Okay, so you're just saying that it's not a human rights violations if you could hypothetically move elsewhere where you won't be subject to said legislation?
You don't have to move there. You just gotta order something through the mail from an abortion clinic or doctor.
So you're saying it's not a human rights violation if there's something that you could possibly do to get around it?
I think that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay. So was it possible for enslaved individuals in the American South to find their way to the Union?
Yeah, on the Underground Railroad and stuff like that.
So then, in accordance with your own views, slavery was not a human rights violation.
No, because except in Texas, where there are bounties, and it does go to, I would say that is more along the lines of a human rights violation.
Okay, so you are now rejecting logic once again. You said if it is
something-
possible to avoid the subjugation
There's
of
more
moral
nuance.
legislation,
There's more nuance
the
in
legislation cannot be a human rights violation.
There's more
which
nuance.
means, in accordance with your own view, that slavery was not a human rights violation, since it was possible for an enslaved individual in the American South to avoid said subjugation by finding their way to the Union.
There's more nuance, and that's a false equivalency.
You don't even know what nuance is. I can't believe that I still have you on my live. I'm literally just torturing myself. Hey, we're going to go ahead and do a vote in the chat. Everybody watching, should I just kick this person for being absolutely like outside of any like
I wanted to talk about
cogent form of
I
discussion?
wanted to talk about gun control first. That'd be fun.
I'm sorry. I'm just doing like a quick vote with my chat.
I wonder
because you're
what they're gonna say.
Okay, all right. Yeah, everyone wants to go alongside me. Adios, man. We're gonna move on to the next guest. Like, dude, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Like, there was okay, I think here's my best way to describe what just happened. So when we're having these conversations, when we're debating, we have to operate, person is very loud, inside of some like bubble of like logic, okay? Or principles, right? We have to hold the principles and test them out in different contexts to see if they're true. Okay. But like that last guest, he wasn't doing any of that shit. He was just saying whatever the fuck he wanted. What's going on, No Play? Do you support Trump?
Oh, yeah, I kind of do, man. I got a question, though.
All right, well, you're on pause. I cannot hear you while you're on pause. But hey, man, before you do ask your question, I got to thank a couple people. Megan, thank you so much for the $5 over on PayPal. Jamie with the 5. And then Heather, oh my God. Heather with the $100 donation over on PayPal. Thank you so much for the love, Heather. Holy shit. I want to see 1,000 W's for Heather down below. Heather says, thank you so much for your work. You inspire me to not only be more informed than I am, but I also better engage with my MAGA family members. But I also struggle with social anxiety. Watching you do what you do and knowing you have anxiety as well makes me believe that I could do more than what my anxiety tells me. You're making the world better in more ways than you realize. Thank you, Dean. Heather, that is so incredibly kind. And that is right. I do actually have very high levels of anxiety, specifically social anxiety. So like kind of getting to the point where I'm at today has been pretty daunting. But hey, I really appreciate you so much for the love, Heather. And then also Michelle with the $50 donation over on Venmo saying, thank you for being a shining light in this dark time. You are so appreciated. Thank you, Michelle and Heather. You guys are phenomenal. And then also Kindle, the $11 and the 11 cents. And then Lisa with the $10 as well. Thank you everybody so much for the love. Please, please, please show some love to our donors. You guys are all so incredible. But you said that you have a question, Mr. Guest. Go ahead and take it away.
Yes, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we could all hear you fine.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I support Trump, but I'm also not a Republican. I'm for like whoever I feel at the time is doing what's right, whether it could be a Democrat or a Republican or independent persons. But I just wanted to ask you, bro, because you know a lot, bro. So why is it okay for other people to tariff us, but not them? And I'm honestly just asking, bro, because I'm like confused about that. Why it can't be reciprocal?
A great question. Okay. So first of all, I want to point out that I typically think that like all tariffs are bad. Okay.
Right.
But like, hey, we need to realize that when we tariff other countries, it hurts us significantly more than when other countries tariff us. Like the worst outcome from other countries tariffing us is maybe like some decreases in the productivity of our manufacturers because it makes it a little bit harder for them to export their goods. Okay, like if all other countries in the world drop their tariffs on America today, our exports would go up a little bit. But when we tariff every other country in the world today, we are barreling towards a recession and trillions of dollars are being wiped out of the stock market. Okay, so the effects of us tariffing the world are much more detrimental than the world tariffing us. But I will say that I think essentially all tariffs need to go, regardless of it's us imposing them on another country or it's another country imposing them on us. But I will also
Right.
say the right way to get other countries to reduce their tariffs on us is to negotiate trade agreements with them, not to impose tariffs on them.
Okay. Yeah, because you know what I mean. It's just hard. It's hard to balance once they start throwing out the numbers. This country is doing this. It kind of just seems like we as a country already dug ourselves in a hole to where tampering with the tariffs could be detrimental or it could be a good thing. I guess kind of like a waiting game at this point, right? Or should we just not do it at all?
So I think that we shouldn't really impose tariffs on any other country, with like the exception of like tariffing and sanctioning immoral means of production, such as like Russia right now because they're ethnically cleansing Ukraine, or like some companies that are reliant on child or slave labor. But
Right.
outside of that, I don't think that we should implement any tariffs. But like we should actively be trying to achieve more trade agreements with as many countries as possible to get them to reduce their tariffs on us, which has like historically been successful through things such as the TPP, NAFTA, or the USMCA. Like other countries want to go into trade agreements with us because we're the richest country on earth. We have the largest GDP by far, and we account for 30% of global commerce.
All right, man. Thank you, bro. I just wanted to hear your insight on that, bro, because I'm sure a lot of people wanted to know how you felt about that, in its entirety. So thanks, bro.
No, man, you asked a great question, and honestly, I spent a lot of my time last night thinking about this because I was watching some other debate where a liberal was saying like, "There's no issue with other countries tariffing us." And then it's like, "Well, do I agree? Do I disagree?" And I kind of like fleshed out my thoughts a little bit more. So I'm happy I had an opportunity to share them. I appreciate you for coming up, man.
Oh yeah, keep doing your thing, man.
As well, peace out. All right, we're gonna move on to the next guest, you guys. If you are MAGA, let me know in that chat, and we're gonna pull you up here for a conversation. So everybody, just do be patient, y'all. Everybody, just do be patient, y'all. We're gonna go to look for that next guest literally right now. Go ahead and spam MAGA down below in that chat if you do want to come up and have a discussion. Let's see who is next. All right. We are gonna go to get Jenna up in the box right now, and oh my God, Janet with the $100 YouTube super chat. Holy shit, Janet. That is so incredibly kind. Thank you so much for the love. I want everybody watching the live right now to spam so many W Janets right fucking now. That is insane. Thank you so much, Janet. That is so incredibly kind of you. All the love to Janet. All the love to Janet. Diva Janet is back. It's been a while. Hope that you're doing well. And yeah, we're gonna get that next guest up here. But Janet says, keep it up. Love you, Dean. I love you too, Janet. Huge shout out to Diva Janet and Foco. Hope you're doing well. What's going on, Kitty? Do you support Trump?
Girl, you crazy. Oh.
Hey, I think we're gonna have to kick Kitty because she's on the phone unless she could hear me. Hey, Kitty, do you
Right.
hear me?
That's right.
Kitty can't hear us, so we're not gonna be leaking her private phone conversation. We're just gonna move on, unfortunately. All right, moving on, yo. Posse, thank you so much for the $10 YouTube super chat. Coming from somebody with BPD, I applaud how patient you are with these MAGAs. Put my donut on the Uncrustables. Much love from you. Much love from Wyoming. Hey, well, first of all, I appreciate you for the love, and I will put that towards Uncrustables. I actually have to go out and get some more because I just kind of ran out of them. And yeah, it is really hard to be patient with the guests sometimes, but it is good because it makes for more productive conversations. Absolutely. Like we are going to have significantly more productive conversations without me like getting upset, even if like I have good reason to get upset. What's going on, Low Taper? Do you support Trump?
Don't. I
Okay.
love you so much.
Okay, well, I do appreciate you for the love. We're going to move on to the next guest right now. So everyone just go ahead and give us a minute. Quite frankly, somebody in the chat says, how are you still relevant? How are you still coping after all these months? Get a load of that, Joker. What's going on, Spud? You were spamming MAGA in that comment section, so you support the Orange Menace, right?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, Jesus Christ,
I was
why?
trying. Well, I mean, I don't know. I live in Georgia. I've served the military, and I just while I was serving in the military, I only met one Democrat. Everybody else liked Trump.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that like we'll see different like industries for whatever reason hold like social stigmas around certain beliefs. I think that's just kind of what happens with when a lot of humans coalesce in the same space. And I think that for whatever reason, we've just seen like an indoctrination of military service members towards the Republican Party because propaganda and a lack of being informed on politics will tell you that they're the patriots, but I think that's unequivocally false.
Well,
I think that Donald Trump is the biggest traitor to this country since the Civil War, and he's a genuine threat to the Constitution in which you are supposed to protect.
Well, I'm not in the military right now. I actually just got out.
Well, thank you for your service, nonetheless.
Oh, thanks, Dean. All I was saying is, throughout my entire service in the military, I just feel like Republicans are more patriotic, and that's strictly from being there. I don't know if you know any vets, but or had any vets up here. But yeah.
Well, so the reason why I don't think that MAGA is more patriotic is because Donald Trump tried to coup our civil electoral processes and steal a presidential election, which, if he was successful in doing so, would have silenced the voice and the vote of every single American in 2020. In December of 2022, he also called for termination of the Constitution. So far in this term, he's violated court orders on multiple circumstances, and he's called media organizations straight up illegal, disrespecting the constitutional First Amendment right to freedom of expression and freedom of press. As well as the idea that he ran on another violation of the First Amendment, wanting to lock people up for burning the American flag. And he told NBC that he wasn't joking about wanting to run for a third term, which would be a violation of the 14th, not 14th, of the 22nd Amendment. So, I mean, we just simply don't see, sentiments from MAGA that aid and abet in wanting to protect civil liberties, rights, and freedoms and the Constitution as a whole. Which I think is like a threat to the patriotism of this country. I think that it's very unpatriotic.
I wanna ask you something else. So this is some other debates, or that I have really with my wife's a Democrat and I'm a Republican, so we try to avoid politics. Do you think racism towards white people exists?
Well, racism towards white people. Here's the thing. I think it depends on how you define racism. I'm like pretty sympathetic to like a definition of racism, in which would like include like structural influence and power. And I think that because white people hold that, in accordance with the definition of racism that I'm more sympathetic to, no. But I mean, I definitely do think a lot about it. And I'm pretty open to having my mind changed, but it's like the more I think about it, the less sympathetic I am to a definition of racism that would include racism towards white people.
Okay. And I had another topic. I don't know if you wanted to discuss. What do you think about the kid that killed the other kid at the track meet?
Well, I think I've like heard about it, but I haven't really done any research into it.
Oh, I feel like a lot of these people that are supporting him completely forgot about the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, and it just.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
You don't remember the
No, I know what Kyle Rittenhouse is, but I don't.
It's
really
pretty much the
remember.
same, almost the same scenario, except Kyle Rittenhouse was getting stomped out, and this guy was in the wrong tent and he was asked to leave. But yeah,
I don't understand how this correlates to Kyle Rittenhouse. But like specifically about like with the instance of what you're referring to, I don't know any of like the specifics of the case. All I know is that somebody ended up dying. I've heard a lot of people say that, it was self-defense. A lot of people say that it wasn't self-defense. I just haven't looked into it myself, so I don't know.
Yeah. So what would you say to the hundreds of other active service members? Mind you, I just got out, that want Trump as president, that are actively putting their lives on the line.
Yeah, I tell them to come listen to my live because the reasons why they put their lives on the line directly contradict the reasons why they support Trump. And in fact, Donald Trump is the greatest threat to the American democracy and the American Constitution that this world faces compared to any country overseas or a group of people overseas. And I think that needs to be recognized. But listen, I want to ask you this question because you asked me if I think that racism towards white people exists. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that racism towards black people not only exists, but is prominent in America today?
I don't think there is any systematic racism. I think there are racist people, but I don't think there's nothing that I can do that a black person can't do or a Hispanic person. And I just don't believe in organizational racism. I don't believe it exists.
Okay.
I believe there are racist people.
Do you mind if I ask you a question just out of curiosity?
Yes.
Such as the idea that 98% of our presidents have been white, a disproportionate amount of like big business owners, Fortune 500 CEOs, execs, and like in institutions with a lot of like power over society, or like all disproportionately white. Like the first thing that comes to mind is, well, like the reason why these individuals are disproportionately white is because black individuals have not had the same opportunity historically or now to get in those positions of influence or power. But I feel like if you reject the existence of systemic racism and you reject the notion that black individuals have had less opportunity compared to white individuals to be in these positions of influence or power, well, then how do you explain it?
I mean, Barack Obama was black and he was literally at the top of the top positions of America. So
Right. No,
that
I don't dispute that, but I mean that also doesn't dispute the claim that it has been disproportionately white individuals who have not only served in the roles of the presidency of America, but also like Fortune 500 CEOs in positions of power and influence across our country. I'm not claiming that black people cannot exist in positions of power or influence. I am claiming that black people are significantly disadvantaged contrasted to white people to be in those positions of, power or influence. And the idea that black people are significantly disadvantaged compared to white people is an example of systemic racism materialized in America today, right? But if you deny that that's an example of systemic racism materialized in America today, can you explain to me why a disproportionate amount of leaders and individuals with structural and institutional power and influence are white?
I actually there's more advantages for black people.
Can you answer my? I've asked you this question twice. Can you please answer it?
You just told me. I'm answering it right now.
No. Because once again, the question that I'm asking you is, how do you explain under your view that rejects systemic racism, specifically why a disproportionate amount of Fortune 500 CEOs, leaders of big tech companies, individuals with influence, power, and money are all white? How do you explain that the average white American has a higher socioeconomic standard compared to the average black American? How do you explain these things in a worldview that does not account for the existence of systemic racism?
I feel like America's just kind of like catching up with itself. Obviously, the original colonists were all white. We just got to a point less than 100 years ago where black people are equal to white people. So I think America's kind of just catching up with itself.
So when you say America's catching up with yourself, what does that even mean? Are you saying that the reason why black individuals are significantly over-policed, they account for 45% of exonerations, and they have significantly less influence and representation within positions of power, and their socioeconomic standards are lower, is because of the long-term effects of slavery and its aftermath?
I mean, I think it put them. You know what? I guess you did prove me wrong.
Because guess what? The long-term effects of slavery and its aftermath is an example of systemic racism in America today. Listen, man, that's my view. And I think that it is a very common sense view when you actually start to think about it. And I'm not going to lie, dude, when I was younger, I didn't think that systemic racism existed. People would talk about it. I'd be like, what are these nonsensical liberals saying? But, the more I thought and I engaged in these discussions, the more I was like, holy shit, they're right.
You want to know where racism outright exists towards Americans though? When I was stationed in Japan, dude, they hated Americans. I couldn't even catch a taxi without an X being thrown out saying "Not American, not American." There are countries that are actually outright racist, and I don't think America is one of them. They're just
hey, man, I'd like to clarify that American is not a race.
I mean, they're racist towards all Americans. I guess it's racism towards
listen, man, if there was somebody that was serving in the military that was in Japan and couldn't get a taxi because they're American that was black, would you still say that was...
No, that's still racism. Yes, 100%. Well, I don't know what
it's more so referenced as xenophobia.
Yeah, I'm not really too sure what the term for, not really racism, but I guess racism toward a certain nationality. I'm not really too sure what that is.
So quote unquote racism towards a certain nationality is called xenophobia.
Oh, well, I'm not too caught up with all that.
And I mean, hey man, maybe there is a lot of people in Japan that hold some prejudice towards Americans. What did America do to Japan?
What did Japan do to us first? We didn't even.
So you're right. The Japanese military committed Pearl Harbor, but we dropped
that
nukes
on a
them.
Sunday morning, people were having church, dude. Have you seen the documentaries?
We dropped 2 nukes on the country.
Absolutely. That'd be like.
Do you think that might explain some prejudice towards Americans?
I mean, I'm just one of those guys. I'm a very patriotic.
Also, what did you just say? Because I wasn't listening. What did you say?
I said I would just say
And then also, let's not treat maybe I'm at fault for a little bit of this too. I need to reframe and say something real quick. So I just asked you what do we do to Japan? Then you're like, well, what did Japan do to us? And I just kind of let it slide. But let's not treat Japan as a monolith, okay? Because when I asked you what America did to like Japanese individuals, we dropped 2 nukes on them that killed over 300,000 people, and then your response to me was like, well, what did they do to us? Well, the 300,000 individuals that were unalived by the 2 nukes we dropped on the country did nothing to us. Okay, that was something that was committed by the Japanese military in accordance with the powers that existed at hand in the country at that given point in time.
I'm not gonna say that it's wrong for all those civilians to be killed. However, they
Wait,
took.
you're not going to say it's wrong? I would.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's wrong. Sorry.
Yeah. Then also like internment camps. Okay. Do we remember where we had internment camps in America where we would just straight up arrest, detain, and place individuals in internment camps if they like quote unquote like look Japanese?
Yeah, that's pretty messed up. I'm not gonna lie to you.
It's terrible, dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, if Japan took a shot at us and we gave them a shot back.
Well, I've already responded to that. You're treating Japan like a monolith. The 300,000 individuals that were killed by the nukes we dropped on them, what shot did they take at us?
What would you do? What would you do if someone bombed your neighborhood with all your family over there, and when you had the power to strike back or send soldiers in individually and hope that they do a good job, when you can just cause a mass destruction and just eliminate the threat?
Listen. So first and foremost, you're saying eliminate the threat. I don't think that the 300,000 Japanese citizens that were killed by the nukes were the threat. Okay.
No, but
and also, I'd like to clarify here, without you interrupting me, that hey, I'm not a wartime strategist. I don't claim to be a wartime strategist. I think the best that I could do, like I won't suggest like the most preferable view. I'll just merely suggest a view that is more preferable than dropping 2 nukes on the country. Like a more preferable view to respond to Japan because of Pearl Harbor, compared to dropping 2 nukes on the country, we could have sent special operative teams into the country to specifically like coup the powers that be over the country that decided to commit Pearl Harbor. Right? Coffee, thank you so much for the space cap. And I'm not saying that's the most preferable view. I'm just saying that is significantly more preferable to like dropping 2 nukes on the country and killing 300,000 civilians.
Not for the longevity of America, because there was we were going into a World War II. That was our entrance pretty much into a World War.
So are you saying that dropping the nukes was necessary?
I mean, for us to go into a world war and to prevent more American soldier casualties, yes, 100%.
Okay, I'm
It took them out, didn't it?
So
it took them out.
Okay, hey, real quick, I have a question. Would you be okay with Palestine nuking Israel to prevent the casualties of more innocent Palestinians?
I am a America should stay to itself type of person.
But I just want to ask you real quick, would you be okay?
I was a Palestinian,
because let's just apply these ideologies to places outside of America. Like, would you be okay with Palestine literally dropping like 4 fucking nukes on Israel just to end the death of innocent Palestinians?
Okay, am I talking as an American, Palestinian, or Israeli?
You're talking as you?
As an American, I really wouldn't care. I feel like America.
Fucking hell, dude. Okay, so you're just like devoid of empathy. Like these views are so evil, man. When you're saying, oh, it was absolutely necessary to kill like 300,000 individuals with the nukes, where like children's skin melted, okay, and they were left a pile of dust. Children, okay, toddlers, 5-year-olds, their skin melted off of their bones, and they died from radiation, and then everybody outside of the immediate blast zones. You're saying that was necessary to serve the best interests of America. I think that this is going from protecting our country to just belligerently killing innocent people with very harmful and disgusting senses.
Honestly,
imperialism, false patriotism, and just a absolute void and lack thereof any level of emotion, empathy, or care for others because of like your nationality. And I think it's funny that earlier you were bringing up that you felt as if racism was more predominant outside of America by saying that a Japanese cab driver wouldn't let you in the back of their car. But then you turn around and you say that it's not as prominent in America, even though you, an American, are now saying that it was okay for us to melt the skin off of 300,000
I didn't
innocent
say it.
Japanese individuals.
When did I say it's okay? When I said I simply
You said
don't
it. You
care.
said it was
I said I
exactly.
simply don't care.
Saying
That's
that you simply don't. Yeah, exactly. So what, dude? Saying that you don't care is saying that it's okay. So like, what's worse? Not letting an American in the back of a Japanese cab, or you saying that you simply don't care about the skin melting off of like innocent women and children, dude?
dude. Like I said, I feel I am.
No, tell me which one is worse.
I said America should stay to its own.
That's not what I asked you.
I mean, I mean, we can go back and forth. Like,
So I want you to answer my question. Which one is worse? A Japanese cab not letting you in the back of their car? Are you saying that you simply don't care about the skin melting off of 300,000 innocent Japanese individuals?
I'm not. I was bringing up the Japanese cab incident as a show of actual racism. I don't really care that I wasn't able to get in the back of the cab, just like I don't really care that.
So will you answer my question?
I mean, obviously, the children getting skin melted is worse. But
okay. So I just want to clarify. If you think that, well, first of all, it's not fucking racism. America isn't a race. It's called xenophobia. If you think it's xenophobic for that cab driver to not let you in the back of their car, and that's a show of actual xenophobia, well, what are you showing to us right now? Like a level of xenophobia, and which is just like never been seen ever on this earth before? Because if a Japanese cab driver not letting you in their car is like the end of the world, well, like holy fucking shit, you saying that you don't care about the skin melting off of 300,000 Japanese innocent civilians during World War II must be what? Like Thanos snapping half of the universe away, right? Like that is generationally terrible xenophobia.
But why does America have to get involved in every country's problems?
Nothing what you're saying is relevant to what I'm saying right now. You're being absolutely so fucking... dude.
Answer the question. Why do we need to get involved in every country's matters?
What's the relevance of this to the conversation that we were having?
I'm asking you. Why does America need to get involved with Palestine, Israel, Russia, Ukraine? Who cares? That's not American. I think America should stay to themselves. And that's just facts.
Okay, so just say it out loud. Tell me, Dean, you are absolutely changing the topic of conversation because you can't handle the heat, and then I'll let you change the topic of conversation because you can't handle the heat, and I'll respond to your claims.
Dean, whatever you just said, yeah, you can. Yeah, that's what I said. I can't take the heat. Let's move on to the next thing.
Great. Well, I mean, let's just test for the consistency of your ideas here in the context of isolationism. So, real quick, do you think that it was a good thing for America to involve themselves on the European front of World War II to combat Nazi Germany?
Honestly, no. I think we should have stayed out of that war as well.
Okay. So you think that Nazi Germany should be left to their own devices?
I said America should stay out of it.
Okay, why?
Yes, because they were pushing communism on all the surrounding countries.
So, no, they were pushing an authoritarian dictatorship. You don't know what communism is.
Communism is pretty much if I'm making the same amount as everybody else, isn't it?
No, it's not.
You explain communism.
Communism, in a nutshell, okay? I know a lot of leftists are about to say, boo, Dean, you have no clue what communism is. In a nutshell, communism is a stateless, classless, moneyless society. It gets a lot more complex, a shit ton more complex, but there's like a very basic running definition. Okay,
Yeah, so
and when we're referencing Nazi Germany, they were not communists. In fact, they were not even socialists. So they were like a fascist regime that upheld like an authoritarian dictatorship with like the states owning some means of production just to like further state control to aid and abet inside of like an authoritative fascist regime. And that has like really nothing to do with like communism or socialism, not really.
Huh?
So they weren't communist.
Okay. Well, like I said, I feel like America should have just stayed to themselves. I feel like the only country we owe anything to would probably be France, and that's because they helped us form as a country.
Hey, I have a question. So if your neighbor had a young daughter and your neighbor had left that young daughter at home alone, and then some burglar came in and started to assault that young daughter, would you do anything to help that young girl that was being assaulted?
Yeah. Absolutely. Call
Okay,
9.
why?
You said what?
Okay, why?
Because it's a little girl.
Okay, so you think that in some sense, if you have the ability to prevent very atrocious human rights violations such as child rape, that you're almost obligated to prevent morally atrocious human rights violations such as child rape, insofar as to the extent that you're able to.
Yeah, but I know you're
Okay.
about
Well,
to turn.
so this idea alone, I just want to
You're
clarify.
turning this into
This idea alone rejects the version of isolationism that you're describing, because this is the exact line of thought that I would use to justify an American involvement on the European front of World War III,
look.
because we had the ability to, help reject the Holocaust and the genocide not only of Jewish individuals, but of gay individuals, of Romani individuals, of black individuals, of individuals with certain with other related conditions. And it is I was thinking about like the specific classification. It's just not coming to mind. But
Dean,
anyways,
you're
and I'd
you're
say for that
applying.
reason, involvement would be justified. And like there's almost like an obligation that existed there for involvement.
Dean, you're applying an individual going to a neighbor's house to a whole country with affairs and government. There's a complete difference there. It's
Okay. So what's the relevant distinction? Why is this principle true for you and your neighbor, but not true for America and the Holocaust?
one of them is an American, and an individual is attacking a girl, versus an entire country that America would be getting involved in. So yeah, that's the big distinction there. You can't really.
So I mean, you're naming like differences, and of course differences will exist because if it's merely analogous, it's not identical. But I don't find that to be a relevant difference. I'd say that America did something good by involving themselves on the European front of World War II, because like Germany was actively killing millions of people, and maybe the American involvement on the European front of World War II helped slow the deaths of those killed at the hands of the Holocaust and the genocide onset by Nazi Germany, and that's a good outcome.
And what? Okay, so if you're all for ending war between.
Also, Johnny, thank you so much for the raid, man. Thank you so much, everyone. Please show some love to Johnny.
If you're all for stopping all these wars, then why aren't you happy with Trump stopping the Russian and Ukrainian war?
Because the way that he wants to quote unquote stop it is just to give Russia Ukraine. That's like stopping
He wants to give them a
Holocaust
portion of
by
Ukraine.
just giving Nazi. I just want to clarify. That's like stopping the Holocaust by just giving Nazi Germany all the means that they would need to finish their eradication of all Jewish individuals on Earth.
I mean, but the thing is, Russians aren't. If the war ended, they wouldn't be killing Ukrainians, and if they did, then that's a different story.
Yeah,
However,
because all the Ukrainians would either already be dead or pushed out of the region.
well, I'm I'm not a huge debater. I just wanted to come on here and express that me, along with 99.9% of every veteran, because I used to ask people all the time, and all of them would say, yeah, fuck Biden, fuck Kamala, we don't want her. Like, people joking about quitting if they go in office, and it's like, there's an outright
Hey, I have a
different.
quick question. Do you think that doctors would know anything about serving in the American military?
I mean, they could, yeah.
Okay, well, I guess that was a bad example because there is doctors
Combat
in the American
medic?
military. Yeah. Let me ask you about a question. Do you think that a civil engineer would know anything about serving in the American military?
Yep, there's combat engineers.
A civil engineer that tests soil in the middle of Colorado, would they know anything about what it's like to serve in the American military?
I mean, all you
I
gotta
guess
do
there's
is
a lot
pick
of
up
there's a lot of professions and industries in the military. I'm simply asking you about a career individual that operates on American soil outside of the military. Would they know anything about the military? Would a veterinarian
Probably
would a veterinarian working in the middle of California know anything about the experiences that you and your buddies have gone through serving in the American military?
Yes, we actually do have veterinarians as well in the military. There's jobs for everything. They all have to go through basic training, so yes.
Okay. Would I think that like you understand what I'm saying, and you're just completely missing the point. Would a
All I'm
zookeeper in the
saying
middle?
is
No, listen to
the
me.
the big.
No. You stop. Would a pastry chef
Okay, yeah.
working? Would a pastry
Zookeeper.
would an interior designer would would an interior designer in Oklahoma know anything about serving in the American military?
You know, they do have designers for all the vehicles.
You know what I'm saying? An interior designer
You
that's
had me at
completely
zookeeper.
outside.
Zookeeper, you had me at. You had me at
Okay, would a
zookeeper.
zookeeper know anything about serving in the American military?
Probably not. But
Okay,
if they're
so
a
then why
veteran,
should we expect somebody in the American military to know about politics? All that I'm
but the
saying
thing,
is
but the
that you
thing
have,
is,
one moment, Spud, you have your special interests that you know a lot about, okay? You know a lot about how to engage in combat scenarios, how to operate like pew-pews, how to shoot RPGs, and how to like scale a wall in under 30 seconds. And you're likely also probably very physically fit. And you could carry a backpack for a 10-mile hike, okay? Right? But none of like the special knowledge in which is required to be a service member in the American military, like necessarily implies that you won't therefore be ignorant to American politics, or you therefore will be knowledgeable of social issues, knowledgeable of economic policy, knowledgeable about governmental reform. So when you tell me that a lot of service members support Trump, that doesn't mean that Trump is better for service members. That just means that a lot of service members think that Trump is better for them. Okay? And the reason why the claim that Donald Trump is better for service members is false is because A, the Biden-Harris administration just simply did more for the American military. They passed the PACT Act, investing $800 million into the expansion of VA healthcare benefits, and passed the biggest pay increase since Bush. What the fuck did Trump do? And then secondly, is because Donald Trump fights against everything you fight for. You fight to protect American civil liberties and freedoms. In 2020, Donald Trump fought to take the right to vote away from every single American when he tried to steal the election from Biden. You fight to protect free speech. Donald Trump fights to take that away by advocating for imprisonment for individuals that burn the American flag or calling media organizations illegal. In a more general sense, you fight for the Constitution. Donald Trump fights to take that away. On December of 2022, he literally called for its termination. Okay? So everything you fight for is something Trump fights against. So why the fuck would you support him if you're literally willing to put your life on the line to make sure he never succeeds?
oh, sorry. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I think I cut off. I wanted to say I don't know what that pay increase where it came from, but none of us saw any like. It was like $10. What the fuck is $10 and an increase gonna get us for a month? Like, come on. You know that we get paid shit in the military, and that's fine. That's fine. You know. But the grand majority of the fighting force of America supports Trump, at least from my experience. And I was in California. I was in Fort Irwin. You know where that is?
And can
The
you
middle.
please respond to the substance of my argument? I detailed very clearly how you fight for everything Trump fights against. Okay, and I'd like you to respond. I'd like you to respond to that.
I'm just like I said, dude. Like it's just like, I don't believe Trump goes against it. Like I'm all for owning guns. I'm all for illegal
Okay,
immigrants.
I'm gonna give you my evidence. December 9th, 2022, Donald called for the termination of the American Constitution in a Truth Social post. 2 weeks ago, he called CNN and MSNBC illegal. In both of his campaigns, 2015 and 2024, he said that he wants to imprison people for burning the American flag. In 1978, the Supreme Court ruled that was protected by the First Amendment.
Yeah, you don't
In
think
2020, Donald Trump
American
installed
flag-
fake slates of electorates to try to coup the outcome of the 2020 election and rig the vote from all seven key swing states that Biden won to send votes to Congress saying that he won them, and they admitted to it in court. There's the evidence that he does stand against everything that you fight for.
First of all, I wanted to re-clarify this. You think burning the American flag is okay?
I said it's constitutional.
It's constitutionally okay. You think burning the flag of the country that you're living in is okay?
It's a conversation that is neither here nor there, and
But
a
you,
complete pivot away from any substantive
well, you
conversation.
just said it though. You literally just said it.
My position on the morality of burning the American flag does not matter in this conversation.
But you said it's under the Constitution. So if burning of the American flag is under the Constitution and protected as freedom of speech, I'm all for a reformation of the Constitution, 100%, 100%. Why would you burn the flag of the country that you're living in and relying on? You know, I just don't agree with that. So yeah, if that's okay under the Constitution, maybe it does need a little bit of reformation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first and foremost, I don't even know what you fought for at this point. I mean, I feel like I hear it all the time. Service members saying that they fight against tyrannical governments and they fight to defend our non-tyrannical democratic government. But now you're saying that it should be so bad that people should be able to go to jail if they want to protest their government, given they become tyrannical. I have a question. Isn't this exactly what the Second Amendment resembles? Is the idea that we should be able to bear arms and form militias to overthrow our tyrannical government if need be?
Yeah, but the thing is...
Yeah? So I have a question. I have a question. So what constitutional right is more anti-American? Allowing citizens to kill their government if it's tyrannical, or allowing citizens to burn the government's flag if it's tyrannical?
I mean, I think all forms, no matter what side of burning the American flag, even if Biden was president, I still think burning the American flag is extremely wrong. I think...
Okay. You're just not even going to address the substance. Okay. Do you fight to protect free and democratic elections in America?
I mean, yeah.
Okay. Donald Trump fights against that. No. Wait. Donald Trump fights against that. He tried to coup the free and democratic election results in 2020 by stealing it from Biden. He sent fake slates of electorates to every single key swing state that Biden won, and he told them to send fake votes back to Congress saying that Trump won them, and then he pressured Mike Pence into certifying them as real, and he pressured the DOJ into falsely announcing widespread voter fraud, and they admitted to it all in court. So you just told me explicitly that you fight for something that Donald Trump fights against. That Donald Trump fights against. Explain it.
Well, like I said, maybe it's just straight off his personality. There's a lot of people that like him, regardless of his...
No, stop. Be very specific in your explanation.
Hey,
you
man,
explicitly vocalize something you fight for, and I was able to explicitly vocalize how Donald Trump fights against it. This shows that Donald Trump doesn't stand with you.
Even if he doesn't...
You are willing to literally lose your life and die to protect free and democratic American elections, but then you support the president that launched the biggest internal attack on free and democratic American elections since the Civil War?
Well, I mean, like I said, I feel like Kamala, and there's another big thing about Kamala Harris. I don't
want to hear about Kamala Harris. I want to hear about why you support a president that is trying to end something that you will literally die to protect.
I can't take the heat. Let's move on to the next one. All right. Kamala, I don't think she'd be good for the country. And whatever. Fucking Kamala Harris, whatever.
Kamala.
I don't think she would be good for the country. All right, man. You gonna let me talk?
Call her Harris.
I don't think the rest of the world is ready for a female to be in power of a big country like that. Like, look, 66% of the world women do not have the same rights as men. So how do you think other countries are going to react globally if we have a female as president? And I'm not sexist. I'm just saying the rest of the world is.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you why you're wrong in 2 sentences, and you're going to contradict yourself, and then you're just going to brush it off like it never happened. Are you ready?
All right.
Is a significant portion of countries outside of America, are they like pretty like racist? Is there a lot of anti-black racism that exists on the global stage?
There's racism in all countries.
So does that mean that nobody should have voted for Obama because the rest of the world wasn't ready for a black president?
No, there are black presidents all in Africa. I think Greenland and Denmark have female presidents, but that's about it.
Okay. So this is kind of like an example of the contradictory logic, because you're saying that sexism is prevalent in other countries, just like anti-black racism is
Absolutely.
prevalent in other countries. And by the way, you forgot like Mexico, New Zealand, the UK, a couple others. It doesn't matter. But anyways, here's my point. If you would say that therefore the world is not ready for a leader that's a woman, this would also imply that the world would not be ready for a leader that's black. However, you obviously reject that, like any semi-rational person
But there,
would
but
be. Also, I have a question. Do you think that a lot of ableism exists on the global stage insofar as the world not being ready for a leader that, let's say, uses a wheelchair?
ableism. I mean, it kind of depends if it's like dementia or something
No,
like that, like Biden had, whatever.
Biden didn't have dementia, but like I'm talking about somebody that would maybe use a wheelchair.
A wheelchair, yeah, that's fine.
W- w-
I think they would, as long as they're
Well, okay,
and is
so
it president of this
do you
country
think
or
that
a
the rest of
small?
the like there's very prevalent ableism in the rest of the world? Like people would view somebody that would say use a wheelchair as somebody that is less likely to be able to be good at leading.
I don't think having a wheelchair has any effect on how you're able to lead. No.
Oh, you just took your mask off. You just exposed the fuck out of yourself. Wow, that was the craziest unintentional Freudian slip ever, because now you've changed the conversation from saying that you don't think that we are ready for a president that's a woman because other countries may not think that women are good at leading, and you've now shifted the conversation to saying that you wouldn't mind a disabled president because you don't think being disabled impedes upon your ability to lead. So why does being a woman impede upon your ability
Because
to lead?
in a lot of other countries, they're not allowed. They don't have the same rights as men. So imagine a woman coming to the table for diplomatic concerns and trying to express. She wouldn't be taken serious at the end of the day. I don't think she'd be taken
Yeah,
serious.
hey man, I'm gonna just go ahead and just be honest with you, because obviously you're unwilling to engage with any of the prior arguments I've given you, and you're being incredibly bad faith. Anybody that's standing in front of a country with the world's largest GDP, the world's biggest consumer base that accounts for 30% of global commerce, that also stands in front of the world's largest military by over a factor of 2, will be forced to be taken seriously by the leadership of every other country on earth if they want to fucking swim and stay alive. So it is the case that if we had a woman leading our country, misogynistic world leaders would be forced to take her seriously if they want to function in the global economy. If they want to stay alive, they will have to bow the knee to the world's largest fucking company, and that's the world's largest fucking government, and that's a fact. So when you're saying that other world leaders want to take her seriously, okay, well if they don't, they lose, we win, right? They'd be forced to take anybody running our country seriously, and like, hey, that's a big reason like why a lot of other countries are very scared of Trump now, because like Donald Trump is a fucking bully that they have to take seriously, because this bully is in charge of the world's largest fucking economy, the world's largest military, the world's most richest country, right? But the same thing would be true of a woman, okay? All right? So when you tell me that a woman would be less effective at running our country because other world leaders wouldn't take her seriously, it's absolutely wrong, A, because more world leaders respected Kamala Harris than world leaders that respect Trump, and B, they'd be forced to take her seriously because she would be standing in front of the world's largest economy, biggest military, and richest country on the face of this planet. All right? But I just want to let you know, this is just another reflection of sexism and of misogyny. In fact, you are advocating for an intentional glass ceiling for all American women and girls. By saying that you didn't vote for Harris because she's a woman, you're saying that women shouldn't lead, point blank, period. You're saying that if you're a woman, regardless of what your accomplishments are, regardless of how many degrees you have, regardless of how many years you've spent in public offices, regardless of your abilities, knowledge, intellect, know-how, personal ability, etc., you should never be able to become president. And there's a brick ceiling that exists between you and that position because of your gender identity, because of what's in between your legs. Okay? And that's disgusting.
Like I said, I don't. That's not the only reason I didn't vote for Kamala.
Her name is Kamala. Pronounce her name right.
Kamala. Okay, fine.
And then also, once again, just to prove you wrong, more world leaders respect Harris than those that respect Trump.
Really? Because
honestly, I bet every single one of those misogynistic world leaders would actually prefer Harris was our president right now
Really?
compared to Trump.
Wasn't she the emissary before the Ukrainian and Russian war started? Wasn't she sent as the emissary, and then a day later they started bombing each other?
Who did she meet with?
She met with Putin
That's not true.
or Zelensky, one of them.
That's just simply not true. So like, see, the issue here is that you just like straight up like spread blatant misinformation and propaganda. So what you're saying is wrong. No.
Well, and regardless of that, she's weird, dude. Like, she had a different accent for every rally she went to. Like, she's just trying too hard. She's just trying. And I think it was weird. And I don't think many people could take her serious as she's doing stuff like that, you know? And you can't deny the fact that she changed her accent at every fucking rally. You can't.
Hey man, I have a question. Do you know what AAV is?
Who?
Who? Do you know what African American Vernacular English is?
No.
Okay. So AAVE is a dialect or vernacular of English, right? In which is very predominant amongst Black Americans, and the historicity relates to the transatlantic slave trade and the existence of Black individuals in America today, okay? And historically. Now, AAVE is very stigmatized by white Americans today and has been also historically stigmatized by white Americans, okay? Right? White Americans like to call AAVE, quote unquote, ghetto. They like to call AAVE, quote unquote, uneducated. They like to look at Black individuals who speak in this perfectly valid vernacular, just as valid as one in which I'm speaking in or you're speaking in, and they like to say that it's wrong, okay? So the way that Black individuals that speak in AAVE have responded to this is to code switch. What does code switching mean? It means that they will speak in AAVE in front of people who they don't think will stigmatize them for it. But when they're in front of a predominantly white audience who they know will stigmatize them for it, they will not speak in AAVE. So when you're telling me that Kamala Harris has spoken in different accents at different rallies, well, in the rally in which I believe there's clips of her speaking in AAVE, she had a more predominantly Black audience who she knew would not stigmatize her for speaking in AAVE compared to the predominantly white America that would look at her speaking in AAVE and say that she is less educated, say that she's ghetto, say that she is dumb, all right? And it's actually funny because you are perpetuating other racist implications inside of the same circle right now. You're saying, oh, she spoke in AAVE, well, that means that she was a less qualified candidate. Oh, she code switched, well, that's something bad that she did, which is exactly why code switching exists in the first place.
So you're saying it's an intentional kind of thing, right? So she...
I mean, well, honestly, it can be intentional.
It
you know
was.
what? I'm going to go ahead and reserve myself. I'm a white guy. My best inference is it can be intentional. It could also be unintentional. But I don't know because I am white.
Yeah, like I said, it was intentional, and she was doing that to try and swing votes of certain crowds, which I don't even know why she was doing that. Everyone that attended her rally was more than likely already going to vote for her, so I don't know why she was trying to swing votes by changing her accent. It's kind of weird.
Oh my fucking God. Thank you for the galaxy. Dude, you're just going into that same shit once again. I mean, I don't know. It's just so gross, dude. It's like I give you a perfectly valid, kind-hearted, calm explanation. It goes right over your head, and the next thing you're saying is calling it fucking weird. Hey, you know what I think is weird? Graping Eugene Carroll. You know what I think is weird? Advocating for a permanent shutdown of all new Muslims entering into America. You know what I think is weird? Imposing countries on the rest of the planet fucking Earth, starting crashes in American stock markets, evaporating $4 to $5 trillion in thin air, and barreling America towards a recession. You know what I think is weird? Saying that you could racially profile immigrants, saying that they're good or bad based upon the way that they look, or saying that we should forcefully expel 2.1 million Palestinians from the Gaza Strip, or advocating for economic policy in which redistributes wealth from the poor to the rich. But apparently you don't think any of those things are weird. You think that MAGA is patriotic, fighting for this country, but oh, fucking the World War III when a black woman code switches, it's that's what I think is weird, Spud.
Well, like I said, at the end of the day, more Republicans are in the military than Democrats. So if it came down
Thank
to
you so
it,
much for the galaxy.
Republicans would be the ones fighting the wars, not Democrats. Like I said, I've seen one Democrat. One. That's it. That's literally it.
Hey, Jay,
And everyone else
can you hear me okay?
Yeah. What's going on, Santana? I appreciate you for being here. You do have a little bit of a bad connection. I thought I'd make that one clear. And then also, you're saying that at the end of the day, a lot of the people in the military are Republicans who will be fighting our wars. So, I mean, all that tells me is at the end of the day, it's going to be the Republican service members that don't fight the largest internal threat on our democracy since the Civil War, contradicting every single reason or motive that you could try to describe to me insofar as why you're serving in the first place.
But why don't Democrats feel the urge of patriotism to go in the military and go serve? Why?
Oh my fucking God!
Why didn't you?
Wait! No, it's that the beliefs are more accepted inside of the military to be a Republican.
But that's not true.
Yes, it absolutely is. I come from a Republican county. Okay, it is significantly more promoted to be a Republican in Mesa County where I live. Many individuals who are born here are either indoctrinated into these beliefs, or have their beliefs switched over time because of the socialization of their popularity. That's also gonna be true of like service members. They either already had those beliefs prior to serving in the military, or they're indoctrinated into them while they're in the military. But I want to let you know that no fucking service member that supports Trump is a patriot to this country. So when you said, why do Republicans feel more of an urge to be patriotic? They don't. Because it's not patriotic to be a service member that supports Trump, because you take an oath to protect and uphold the Constitution, but then you turn around, bow the knee, and suck on the ring of a guy who explicitly called for its termination and tried to coup the outcome of a federal election.
First of all, I've never been really patriotic until
exactly. Thank you. Wait, stop the sentence now. You've never been patriotic, point blank, period.
Until Biden came in, was our president, and I was in the Marine Corps currently, and just seeing clips of him, and then not only that, there is a clip of Kamala saying that she's pulled every service member from every.
I'm just gonna let real quick, Santana. I saw your text. You just said that your connection was bad. Do you want to try just to like? Okay, he dropped. Okay. Santana, feel free to re-request if you could if you just want to try out the connection that you have, or if you're in a zone with better connection. I would love for you to come up here. I would love it. I'd love it so much. Her name is pronounced Kamala Harris. You can't pronounce words, bro?
Hello.
Hey man, her name's pronounced Kamala.
Okay. Anyways, I was saying,
I just want to clarify, you can't pronounce words.
I have an accent. Sorry about that. Are you making fun of my accent now, Dean?
Oh wow, yeah, the guy with half of his
no.
family.
I'm saying, you talk about all this AOE. Now you're calling me out.
AOE,
when you said it's
please get a third grade education. A Southern accent does not prevent you from pronouncing Kamala Harris's name right. I'll do it right now. I'm Dean Withers, and I'm a Southern son of a bitch, and I voted for Kamala Harris. Wow. Spoken like a true Southern patriot. Isn't that right? Yeehaw. Feel free to unmute.
okay. You done now?
I mean, I just want to make sure that you could pronounce words correctly. That's all.
It's my accent, Dean.
It's not. It's not your dude. I literally corrected you on it
just got
earlier, and then
done
you pronounced
talking
it
about.
right
You
one
just
time.
got done defending Kamala about her accents at different rallies.
Unironically, this has nothing to do with the accent that you're speaking in. Say comma and say la. And put those two words together.
Kamala.
Comma?
I'm just messing with you.
Exactly. It has nothing to do with your fucking accent, you piece of shit.
All right, but anyways, like I was saying, at the end of the day, regardless if it's considered patriotism or not, the people that entered the service are, and like I said, look, first of all, like I said, I was never patriotic until Biden was the president. Never. I just do what I'm told,
Hey, one second.
And then I just start.
Just real quick. You're no longer a valuable person to have on my live stream. What do you do to a soccer ball? Oh God, you don't even know? You don't even know what you do with the soccer ball?
You kick it.
That you do. That you do. You do kick it, Spud. Moving on. All right. Here we go, everyone. Holy fucking shit. That guy was
Yo,
really
what's up,
annoying.
bro?
That guy annoyed the shit out of me, chat.
Yeah, he was fucking irritating.
For real, Drew. He was. Do you support Trump?
Honestly, I don't.
Oh, okay.
Hey,
Nice.
real quick.
No, I'm
La-
sorry. We are just looking to debate individuals that do support the president. Yo, if you guys are in the queue, make sure that you support Trump. We're going to get you up here for a conversation. So, dude, just go ahead and give us a minute and spam Maga down below in that chat right now. We got Norsewood loading up, you guys. So, everyone just give us a minute. I would like to say, Winnie, thank you so much for the $20 super chat over on YouTube. While we're getting our next guest up here, guys, this guy's driving, so we got to kick him. Please spam W Winnie down below in the chat for the $20. That is so incredibly kind. Winnie says, nutty thing to say. I'm a trained opera singer with some awesome diction in a few languages. I speak the California Valley Girl from time to time. The argument would discredit Harris because she has accents is ridiculous. Well, I mean, it's not even like accents. I mean, that's more of like, I'd say like just a very like common misunderstanding. Like AV is not an accent; it's a dialect. But, I mean, it's definitely a little bit more of an in-depth conversation. What's going on, Kimmy? Do you support Trump?
Can I ask a question about Trump?
Preferably ask it in my Discord, and I bet that I or other people in the Discord would love to answer. But we're gonna move on to the next guest here. But that's awesome, Winnie. I didn't know that you're a opera singer. That's so cool. We're gonna get the next guest. You guys go ahead and just spam Maga down below in that chat if you do want to come up and join. It looks like there's not a lot of Trump supporters that do want to come up here and join. A little bit scared, quite frankly. We got Become the Man loading in. I'd also like to thank Mr. Seaman for the $2 over on YouTube Super Chats. Riley with a 5, thank you so much. Vanity Girl with a 2. RJ with a 2. Creighton with a 5. And then Howard, thank you so much for the $25 over on YouTube Super Chat as well. Everybody show some love to Winnie and Howard down below in that chat. What is going on? Become the Man. Do you support Trump?
Yeah, I do support Trump.
You didn't become the man. You became the boy.
Well, how did I become the boy?
Because men don't support Trump. Only boys support
Men
Trump.
do support Trump. Men do support Trump. What are your thoughts on the tariffs? I want to know.
Don't like them, quite frankly.
Why not?
Oh, I hear British accent in you. What time is it?
What time is it here? It's almost 12.
12. Okay, yeah. Well, we are only looking to talk to individuals that are American, you guys. So if you are spamming MAGA, double in that chat. Make sure that you're American, you're at least 18, and you support the president. We're going to move on to the next guest. So much for the $10 over on YouTube Super Chat as well. Everybody show some love to RJ and Amber. Amber also with the $10, and Teal with the $10, and James with the $10. Holy crap, you guys. Thank you all so much for the love. And then, oh my God, Sid with a $100 super chat over on YouTube. Let's get at least 1,000 W Sids. At least 1,000 W Sids. Sid says, my Venmo's officially believes that I'm impersonating myself, so L YouTube for taking half the money and L Venmo for hating on me. Bro, dude, Venmo brings that hammer down hard, dude. I'm not going to lie. Venmo sucks sometimes, man. And then also Sandra with a $10 over on Venmo, Steven with a $10. And then Shara, thank you so much for the $25 donation on Venmo. Say never back down, Dean. And I never will. Thank you so much for the love, Shara. And then Josh with a $1 over on Venmo. And yeah, we're going to get our next guest up in the box. You guys go back to spamming MAGA down below in that comment section if you do want to come up and debate. We're going to go ahead and get that next guest up in the live literally right now, quite frankly. And also, on top of that, if you want to support me, you can find my Venmo, my PayPal, and the link tree in the bio, as well as you can find them in the pinned message over on YouTube. I really do appreciate everyone so much for the love today. But if you are one of the 5.6 thousand people watching the stream, guys, make sure that we're double tapping while we get that next guest up in here. It is very hard to find anybody that is willing to come up here and have a conversation. Michelle, good to see you. Thank you for the galaxies. And thank you for the Venmo earlier. Thank you, Michelle. All right, everyone. Wow, we are just not finding debates. That is really unfortunate, dude. What's going on? Do you support Trump?
Yo, what's up? Would you rather have unlimited bacon?
All right, moving on to the next guest. Here we go. We are just still looking for the next guest, dude, and it is rough. Not a lot of Trump supporters wanting to come up here and debate us with 5.6 thousand people in the live, man.